Hey everyone, my name is Austin. I'm a senior product designer here at GitLab working on the foundations team. Today for my showcase, I want to run through some of the navigation exploration that I've been doing around our vision and how we're going to set the future of GitLab and the architecture for that. So to do so, I'm going to jump back, go back in time. So this is around April, May, pretty new to the team. As I was digging through the different research, I was trying to take the insights that I was gleaning from them and putting them into low fidelity mockups just to think about how if we move certain elements here or there, group them like this or that, how might that make the product feel in comparison to how it is today? And I just left it there. For the most part in 15.1, I focused on menu design challenges. So in that global header, when you're seeing the option as the hamburger menu icon, the word menu next to it, just trying to discern how could we maybe evolve that in MVC. Didn't quite come to a specified solution just yet, but Nick Brandt is helping carry on some of those design ideas in the future. But for now, that leaves us with 15.2. In 15.2, we are focusing on specific themes. And this is what we used to help orient the designs that I was working on in the previous milestone. And we came up with a bunch of different themes as a team. This somewhat fits in with like the UX roadmap concept. But these helped us better understand like what are we really trying to address in terms of the navigation category. And these themes stuck out to us in terms of what we saw in SUS, but also just verbatims we've read from previous UX research and other usability studies as well. So we want to address these feelings of being overwhelmed, helping users feel oriented, and helping them pick up where they left off. And in terms of how much we feel confident in them, it correlates a little bit to how we see that materialized in the research and the frequency in which we see these problems occurring. So fast forwarding to 15.2, I took those low fidelity concepts and just started throwing a lot of ideas at it. Adding more fidelity, color, visual ideas, and I'll be honest, I think it was too much. I was taking a bunch of different ideas, pulling them all together, thinking about all the different micro interactions. What happens if you go to the home dashboard page, designing that interaction, then adding like tooltips, and then deciding should it be a flyout menu versus a drawer, or should it be a modal instead of drop down, whatever it might be. It was helpful for exploring, but I do think I got a little bit too in the weeds. So just to stick to this presentation, I'm only going to be presenting this one basic view of a project page essentially. And this is where we are going to start a lot of our research around, because we feel like that is part of the orientation for the user, is where they're coming into a project and where they're trying to then go from there. Some use the home dashboard page, but this is a key interactive state where I think I even see a lot of users providing feedback around the fact that they're overwhelmed by the amount of features that they see. So each of these explore a lot of different problems at the same time. And that's the challenge with this, is how do we move forward with that? We're tying it back to those themes. And from there, we're trying to then better understand what should we put in front of the user so that we can get meaningful insights. So first of all, too much visual fidelity here. One of the things I did last milestone was take out some of those visual fidelity elements back to its core components, trying to create more of a baseline around each of the design languages here, so that everything's on more of an even playing field. We don't want to like over rotate towards an idea just because it had more visual polish than another, or had used perhaps like color in a way that draws more attention. So to try and create a more equal playing field, I took everything out, and then from there started to choose to add in specific elements. So bringing into these designs what's necessary and leaving behind what's not. So these things might be like adding the details around the name of a feature or a page, but not necessarily highlighting all of the files in a repository, and just replacing that with a like placeholder with the background of like a skeleton loader there, just to help give context of what is on the page, but the things that aren't necessarily important, or at least key to the navigational experience. What we're concerned about here is the main elements that we consider part of the navigation. So this might be like the global header, or the contextual left sidebar that appears like a project or a group or admin area or user profile. Anyway, we're just trying to see, do those pieces still make sense? And from here, I started to notice that there's a bit of a logical grouping here, and I can see this scale over time, or the scale in terms of how familiar an idea is to what feels more unknown to a existing GitLab user today. So the ideas on the far left here are similar in the fact that they're trying to approach the same problems by changing more minute details. Ideas in the middle are a little bit different, so taking away that global header, tucking it into the left sidebar somehow, so we only have one left sidebar instead of having a global and a left sidebar. And the far right is still using a pure left sidebar, but it's a unique perspective because it's eliminating the concept of having any sort of like tree down structure where you're looking at things by groups or projects. You're just looking at GitLab and you're looking by specific features, which is a relatively unknown concept. We don't really do it all that much. The places that you get that top-down view, that bird's eye view, might be a list of projects or issues or merge requests, but you don't necessarily get that when you're looking for all the wikis that exist in GitLab. So we're just trying to understand on that gradient scale, where do we need to land? What we want to avoid is too many small changes. And this is a hypothetical, definitely not our roadmap or what we'll be planning to do, but just an example of what we don't want to have our users experience. We don't want to work on a bunch of small changes that lead to bigger navigational impact that feels like the platform is changing from beneath the user's feet. We want them to feel like they have a consistent, stable experience when they come to work on the GitLab product. So hopefully by doing good research up front, we can identify where we need to go. Perhaps that means we only land on this specific type of design. We might need to flush out more visual fidelity elements, but that allows us to kill off what's further down the road. And we can come up with an MVC plan from there. Or perhaps we're completely wrong and we really got to shift to this farther right concept. And that allows us to skip a lot of painful MVC decisions and jump to what's more important. Again, I'm going from like, this is probably familiar to an unknown, so I feel less confident that we're going to move towards the unknown, but by using some of our user research testing methods, we can help validate or invalidate what's necessary here. Because perhaps somewhere is in the middle, perhaps like this vertical left sidebar is more useful, and we can start moving away from our existing global header and left sidebar to something like this instead, and also be able to say, no, we're not moving towards this unknown concept, more towards the right. We're really trying to pinpoint the vision. And so how do we do that specifically? Well, in 15.3, we're still refining our testing plan. So I'm still trying to refine those designs to better match the methodology that we're going to employ. We're looking between using the right method versus comparative testing, but ultimately what we're trying to do is validate these concepts. We're trying to take these concepts and put them through a testing method to better understand which direction do we want to go. While we will do an MVC approach into these visionary ideas, we're just trying to have at least a guiding North Star so that we have a better way to say yes to specific MVCs and no to others. The last thing we want to do is iterate into an experience that's worse. So we really want to pay attention to our sus feedback as well as dog food any changes that we start to build before we start releasing them more widely or publicly. And if you're interested, you're welcome to follow along on the issue that I've assigned to myself that highlights the problem that we're trying to solve, those themes, a few of the goals that I'd like to see both myself and some of the solutions bring, and the tasks. I'm dog fooding work items at the moment. So breaking those down, trying to roadmap out how I'm like working on this vision. But overall, hopefully we can find a meaningful direction for our navigation soon and start testing, because I think the most important thing here is I want to get to a feedback loop where we're getting to find out from our users specifically what is working well and what is not. I don't want to subjectively choose which direction we want to go. I want to use some of our research insights to help glean that direction while also relying on our understanding of GitLab product for what makes sense for where we want to take it. So if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to throw them in the agenda. I'll jump back in and address those when I get back. Or feel free to ask them on Slack or in the issue itself.